I don't want them to melt too fast. They come my way eventually. We have the vice chairman of La Courte. So is it, I didn't take...
La Courte.
La Courte.
Yeah.
Sounds a lot better when you say it. Band of Lake Superior Chippewa Indians. Welcome, vice chairman.
Bonjour. Niji Bumajazijig Oma. Nin Samanidu Nuden Indigenous Cause Biju and Du Dame. Odawazaga Iganing and Dunjiba. First of all, I want to acknowledge the Madam Chair McCollum and the members of this committee for the opportunity to speak on behalf of La Courte and other tribes in this country. Miigwech to this committee for its substantial efforts to protect the interests of LCO, or La Courte, in the FY19 interior appropriations and for once again rejecting the President's inadequate budget request for tribal programs. Chronic underfunding of tribal programs and treaty obligations has taken a toll on our tribe. We urge Congress to provide advance appropriations for BIA and IHS so their crucial programs are not impacted by government shutdowns or delays in funding. So you have my testimony for the record. I'd like to go off and just speak personally as a beneficiary of our treaties that we have signed with the United States. We have and for La Courte we have significant treaties signed in 1837, 1842, and 1854, of which I'm a beneficiary of. I'm also a beneficiary of all of the leadership that has come before you to request the necessary funding in order to run our programs. One of the huge issues that we have in Indian country is the opioid epidemic. The opioid epidemic is ravaging Indian communities, as you have heard. But the true center of it all is on the historical trauma that impacts tribal communities and this country. I spent the first day I arrived here in Washington, D.C., I spent 6 hours in our museum, the National Museum of the American Indian, and I spent another 4 hours in the Museum of the African American Culture and Museum, and it reminded me of the tragedies that have happened in this country, and reminded me of the trust obligation that the United States has with tribes. So with that. Trauma-informed care is needed, and so a request for increased funding for behavioral health to implement preventative measures to battle addiction, depression, suicide, diabetes, and heart disease. Our children need those necessary programs in order to fulfill their purpose in life. We do need facilities for recovery as well, and so that's why the request for necessary increased funding for our Indian Child Welfare Act, which provides child protective services, neonatal services, foster care, are crucial for our community. In addition to that, the Bureau of Indian Education is also in dire need of an increase of funding, especially for our ISEP formula, which was mentioned in the prior testimony. Our FACE program, also the construction costs and contract support is desperately needed. We need those programs and the necessary funding in order to keep our teachers at a competitive wage, because we lose them to public schools. And so with that, more programs can also be implemented. Culture, in our community, culture-based programming is what's paramount for us. That's what has kept us alive from the beginning. Through everything that tribal people have endured, our culture and our language has been there for us and has kept us alive and kept us standing upright. So with that, I would also request that in addition to our educational obligations, that we include roads and housing improvement programs. The Tawahi Initiative, which includes tribal courts and job placement and training. Also, additional to that is the wildlife and parks for more funding for water quality initiatives and law enforcement and biological services, so that we can determine what a safe harvest level is for our people in our communities. In addition to that, go back to education with Title III funding, which is Part A and Part F, which is due to sunset in 2020. We just ask that not be done, and that funding for charter schools be directly funded as well. Also, I'd also ask for for this committee to support Abigail Eckelhawk in her efforts to create additional mechanisms to track missing and murdering Indigenous women across this country. As I mentioned before, our culture is the cure for many of our social ills, but we strive on our partners in our treaties respecting their responsibility and honoring their part as well. So I close with this comment and this statement from Supreme Court Justice Hugo Black. Great nations like great men should keep their word. But I only want to add that great nations like great men and women should keep their word as well. And that's a testament to all the women that have been recently elected to Congress. We acknowledge them and we say miigwech to the two ladies, Sharice Davids and to Deb Holland, for their recent appointments. Miigwech Bizendaw Yeg.